She was going to try, but she said that it was a waste of time. But we want to thank you for being here this evening. This is our last official coaching session for this semester. And the purpose of this session is to we introduced you to the AAPTEL on Tuesday night and gave you enough to get started in all three classes. But tonight, basically what we're going to do, we're going to put the whole elephant on the table. We don't expect you to eat it all at one time. We'll come back and we'll eat them one bite at a time. But the purpose is to fully expose you to what it is that you need to do to complete evidence to the AAPTEL, the analysis and action plan for teacher empowerment and leadership. Realizing that, as we said on Tuesday evening, and I'm sure Dr. Hamilton has said as well, and Dr. Lamb has mentioned it, we're beginning with the AAPTEL, that gradual release that we have to do. We're going to hold your hand, but we're not going to hold it quite as much as we did with the AAPTEL, and you're going to find yourself having to be more independent this semester and with this evidence. And by the end, we will try to cut strings completely, because when you get to Dr. Lamb and the 602 summer, you heard him laugh. It's you're going to be a lot independent. So that is where we are now. They won't leave you stranded, but they're going to make you, you're not going to get the hand holding like we do right now, and we've told y'all that. But we sent you the agenda already, but we're going to take it as it is, beginning with task 1 and leading right into task 2. Dr. Revis had task 3, so I've talked with Dr. Hamilton. She's going to just lead right into that, and then Dr. Lamb and Dr. Crawford and I will join in as needed with that. So I'm going to, at this point, we're going to go on, Dr. Lamb, and just begin with task 1 of the AAPTEL. You're the beginning.
All right, we'll get ready to get started. Task 1 of the AAPTEL. The candidate will conduct a literature review reflecting various teacher empowerment leadership best practices from reputable scholarly sources. Again, we've shown you how to go to Bulldog 1. Don't be using Google sites that you have no notion of the veracity of them. And so the only place you can really go wrong in task 1 is if you don't understand that teacher empowerment and teacher leadership are two different things. Teacher empowerment is being empowered as a leader in your classroom, as measured by Marzano's 9 high yield strategies. Are you empowered to be a leader in your room? And you can't be empowered to be a leader in your own classroom as a teacher unless you are an excellent practitioner or an expert practitioner of high yield strategies. The other piece is teacher leadership, and that's being a leader in your school building. And that's defined by Todd Whitaker's 5 areas. Teach other teachers, be involved in curriculum, be involved in personnel, be involved in the budget, be involved in the school leadership team, those kinds of things. So there's really 2 major areas here, but make sure you do your scholarly research in teacher leadership and decision making. That teacher leadership would be Todd Whitaker's type of leadership, where you assume leadership roles inside the entire walls of your building. Building efficacy and empowerment among the staff, that's being empowered in your own classroom. Results-oriented professional development, how would we go about putting all the needs of all the teachers in our building? That would be Linda Darling Hammond would be our reference person there. Recruitment, placement, and mentoring of school staff and approaches for evaluation of school staff. Those come straight from North Carolina NESA's training and teacher evaluation manual. That's where that stuff is. You'll find that. And so a lot of that stuff goes back to Robert Marzano as well, because the North Carolina and South Carolina teacher evaluation processes are based loosely around McRell and Robert Marzano's work of high yield strategies. All right, so that's what you'll do in task 1. And then you'll do the background information about your school and community. You've already done that. So that's simply a copy and paste. Make sure you have a section here. And that has each of these as a heading that I have highlighted here. And then you'll go to prompt 2 after you've done your professional research. Candidate will create a checklist based on to aid in assessing current best practices in the school clinical setting. Now, so what we're talking about is best practices for teacher empowerment and leadership. These are the school-wide leadership. This is Todd Whitaker's 5 right here. Now, you can survey these, and we're going to do Qualtrics again right quick. You can survey and ask teachers, a yes, no. Do they have a role in any of these in their school? And it's simply a yes, no question. And then you're going to use either the walkthrough instrument that you have, or you can use this one to go into classroom and do classroom walkthroughs to see if teachers are using best practices. You cannot survey for this one because it's an IQ test. If you ask teachers if they use best practices, they'll all say yes. And so you have to go. Now, let me stop my share. I want to make sure that you understand. When you're doing walkthroughs, generally your district and or your school will have a walkthrough instrument that that's when you go and stay 15 minutes or less. You get walkthroughs in your classrooms, or some of you may do walkthroughs. They're already in the role. This is not a formal observation. This is a walkthrough. Now, you say, Lord have mercy, we got all these teachers in my building. I can't do walkthroughs on them. Just do 2 or 3. And then talk to your principal about what their, the summary of their walkthrough data. Which of these high yield strategies, which of these 9 do you see used the most, and which do you see used the least? And who's doing them really well and who isn't? Because we're going to use those people in our staff, in our professional growth plan. We're going to use them to, the ones that can do to teach the ones who aren't doing it. So do 2 or 3 walkthroughs, get an idea of, I can tell you right now, hardly anybody does non-linguistic representation. That's going to be a weak spot. If it's real weak, then we're going to do a staff-wide whole group professional development on it. If it's just some teachers here or there, we'll address it in small groups in PLC. And if we have some teachers that are really struggling, we'll do some one-on-one with them. So there's 3 types of staff development. There's whole group, that's all of the teachers, and then there's small group, which is PLC, and then there's one-on-one. And you vary the amount of that according to what you need. If 95% of your teachers in your building are using, for the most part, best high yield strategies from Marzano, we don't need to do a lot of whole group. We need to target those who aren't. That's the notion here. But again, you cannot survey for best practices in the classroom. You got to get out there and look. Insert joke here. It's kind of like when you have a litter of puppies. You have to lift their tail and look, see what they are. Well, that's what you have to do with teachers. You have to go to the room and look. You can't ask them. They won't tell you the truth. And so some of you probably don't know what that means, but others think about it in a minute, you'll figure it out. I want to call on Dr. Crawford. He don't have to elaborate on that crazy statement. Dr. Crawford, how often do you do walkthroughs?
So in a low performing school, the state has its own program for that. So they're doing the work off of Teach Like a Champion with the Get Better Faster protocol. So in addition to getting through the normal NESIS process, we have to then go through tier our teachers, red, yellow, and green, and then based on that, especially ones that are red, using this Get Better Faster protocol. I'm doing, so between the 4 of us, we got 9 teachers that we classified as red, which means they get weekly intensive support. And so I am doing walkthroughs and giving immediate feedback and bite-sized bits for things for them to improve on weekly.
Weekly. Yeah.
Can I throw
Well,
something in there, Dr. Van? Can I throw something in there?
yes, I was getting ready to ask you.
Oh, thank you. So
We need to
my
always take advantage of our resident experts who are actually doing this.
Well,
and
that's
talking
good,
about
but-
it.
you know, we can learn from positive exemplars and we can learn from negative exemplars.
That'd
And
be
so
me.
however you want to take this, take it. So my objective years ago, and if I said to you, what is one thing that I do that helps my school exceed growth? One thing. My objective was to be in an average of every classroom one time a month. So if there are 18 student attendance days in a month, then I need to be in those classrooms at least 18 times that month. Now, what happens is you have things, stuff happens, you have principal meetings, stuff happens. So then when I started realizing that, started saying, okay, I'm going to try to be in every classroom twice a day to make up for the times that like I'm out all day for a principal's meeting, right? Whatever. So I've done this for years. And if I had to say to you, what is one thing? Because can I tell you that when I taught at Shelby Middle School in the 1990s with my chalkboard, the principal had a school car. Her parking space was right outside my window. Did that make a difference to me when that school car was in that parking space, that when that school car was not in that parking space? Yes, it did. It shouldn't have, but it did. I was a child. So yes, it made a difference. So I try to be there, and sometimes I'm in there 3 times a day just to try to make up for some other times that I know I'm going to have to be out, whatever. So, but what I find interesting, and this is what I really wanted to say, what I find interesting is I've had several people observe me lately, like shadow me, like assistant principals or principals be sent to shadow me. And I'll say, okay, let's go. And as Romy Wheeler says, it's like we're shot out of a cannon every morning.
Mhm.
You're doing your car duties, and you do your announcements, and you better be in those classrooms, make sure they're teaching on time. They're not sitting back, the bell has rung, they've done their attendance, they need to be teaching. So the last few people who have shadowed me have said, so you give all those people feedback? And the last one that shadowed me said, you mean, you don't mean every classroom 2 times a day, you mean 2 classrooms a day, right? I said, no, I mean walk in every classroom twice a day. And what I have found interesting is there seems to be some misconception that every time you walk in a classroom, you have to provide feedback. You don't. You sometimes are just walking through. Now I have another enormous chart, enormous, that lists how much feedback they've gotten, written or verbal or whatever, throughout the month. So if it's the end of February and I see somebody's only gotten 1 and other people have gotten 3, then I'm going to make sure that I'm giving it to those people who have just gotten 1. But just because I'm walking in your classroom every day 2 times doesn't mean you're getting feedback every day.
Yeah.
And part of that's culture. But part of that is also when they don't know when you're walking in, right?
Yeah.
And don't have it on a
Exactly.
schedule and a routine, take a different path every day.
Right.
Mhm.
So, thank you. So, taking between what Dr. Crawford said and Dr. Hamilton said, here's the notion, folks. For low performing schools in Charlotte Mecklenburg, when Dr. Crawford and I were there, he was there, he was a young man. I was an old man even then, but it was a million years ago. The rule was in low performing schools, you need to be in every room every day on a walkthrough, but you need to do feedback 1 time a week. See, the problem that you get into is either you go and you try to give feedback every time and it's of no value, or you go all the time, but you never give any feedback, and that's of no value either. We're trying to go and gather data so that we can give feedback, but we can develop a plan for that feedback through professional development. Like Dr. Crawford was talking about, they're doing intensive. That means one-on-one. That's what that means. That's what intensive means. So again, the 3 types of staff development are whole group, that's everybody. Small group, PLCs, we do our work on these best practices in PLCs, or one-on-one, what we now call intensive. So what you've got to learn is there's an instrument. So we're going to assume that when we're doing our walkthroughs, it's that one time a week that we're taking our instrument with us, and for the purposes of documenting what we saw so that we can give feedback or we can contribute to that professional growth plan in which we would get, that these people, we would schedule that. There's a rhyme or reason. When we build our growth plan, again, it's based on our data. Do a lot of people need this, or a few people need this, or just some specific ones, as Dr. Crawford said? 8 of his need that one-on-one intensive. Everybody don't need that. But whole group would not be good enough for them. So what we're trying to do is figure out what is that balance there. When we do these walkthroughs, we're trying to figure out how many of our folks, if 95% of my folks at a particular school were not using best practice, you better believe that required work day in August, we'd be doing best practices all day long. But if everybody's pretty much using it, we'll maybe do 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll break out and work on individual best practices, maybe in our PLCs. But we got to know, we got to gauge that in our building. And you have the data you learned from the first evidence. You got data. That EBOS data tells you these things. You have performance data. You have your NESIS. You have your evaluations. You have your growth data from EBOS. And then you're going to get a third. You're going to triangulate by going in their rooms and seeing for yourself. That's the whole notion here.
Dr. Lamb?
Yes.
Can I just, I don't want to prolong this, but can I just give everybody a quick peek at the walkthrough tool that we use?
Yes, please do.
Can I share screen? Okay. So folks, this is the Get Better Faster scope and sequence. And at first I was little in my feelings about being forced to use the tool, but I'll be honest, the more that I have used it, the more that I like it. And here's why, especially with the school that I have and the teachers that I inherited, or having walked into 17 vacancies, didn't inherit. It's a whole nother story. For a lot of the new teachers that I have, or any new teacher, you can walk into that first year teacher or that lateral entry teacher and you can find 500 things wrong, right? That's a given. I can't go to first year teacher Danny Stedman, who's already struggling with the knucklehead kid and the parent that is cussed him out in hair roller. He doesn't understand why. And lesson plan. Oh, wait a minute. Data. Oh, wait a minute. Calendar. Oh, wait a minute. Staff meeting. You can't go to that teacher and say, here are the 500 things I need you to fix. Okay, first of all, you can't manage that. And neither can they. And what this scope and sequence does is it literally breaks down everything, and it breaks it into 2 categories: management and rigor. And think of this as a waterfall. And so you start here and you simply work your way through. And the idea is to give bite-sized pieces of feedback to that teacher, and based on this sequence. And so, for instance, with this 8th grade math teacher, is one of the teachers that is on mine. I am literally right here with, dude, this is how you stand at your door and greet kids as they come in. Don't just let them roll in and stop them. Hey, Dale, good to see you, buddy. Warm-ups on the board, go take a seat. Danny, you had a rough day yesterday. We're gonna fix it, move on, have a seat. Robin, good to see you. Go and sit down, warm us on the board. I mean, that's where I am with these teachers. For other teachers, they've got this down. So we start over here with, things concerning rigor, and just kind of roll your way through until they get that. And so the way we've been trained on this instrument is to literally give that teacher feedback, bite size, on something that they can fix or address within a week, which is why I'm in that continuous cycle of, okay, and it's gotten to the point with this document where we actually script out. So with this math teacher I was talking about, with his first script, with his first set of feedback, I gave him 2 tasks. Get your warm up in the same place every day. And then I want you to develop an opening script for when kids come into your classroom. Upside is he's got the warm up in the same place, but I've got to go back to him and say, okay, hey, listen, we wrote out a script for you to greet your kids as they come in. Let's go back to that, and I'll be back. So that's just a quick overview of the instrument that we're using. So it doesn't look nearly as scary as it's a big document, but it's designed to be a waterfall. You start literally at the beginning. What is the highest leverage? What's the highest leverage of feedback you can give that teacher? Give them that piece and that piece only. Give them a week to get it, and then move on to the next thing. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Dr.
that's
Crawford,
great.
can you share that with us, Dr. Crawford, and we'll put it in the AAPTEL template and materials, and that's a resource for them
Yeah,
that
to
they
see.
can look at. But Dr. Lamb, Dr. Crawford said something that's very important. When you do that walkthrough instrument, your purpose is not to go in there and if there's 5 things on it, to look for all those 5 things every day. You go intentionally looking for certain things, like Dr. Crawford said, and you take it one bite at a time. You cannot, you would wear yourself out, Dr. Hamilton, trying to look at everything on that list every day. That's not the purpose of a walkthrough.
Right. Well, I just last semester went through NESIS training again. First time I'd been through it in 40 years since I had it, 40 years ago. It wasn't called NESIS back then, or maybe we did one for administrators in Charlotte Meck or somewhere in one of the counties I worked in. I don't remember, but I went through it again. And one of the things that I wanted to share is what Dr. Crawford was talking about and what Dr. Stedman just said. Best practices from NESIS training, which is formal observation training in North Carolina, is no more than 2 pieces of feedback, and expect that to get done in a week. That's exactly right. You don't give 100. You give no more than 2, 1 or 2, but you expect to see that incorporated within a week. That's the current thought process of NESIS training as well. No more than 2 pieces of feedback at a time. But we expect you to give feedback, suggestions to improve instruction. You'll learn with me next semester. That's one of the state laws under 115C 288, duties and responsibilities of principal, is that you give teachers suggestions for improvement of instruction. That's what they're talking about. They've even written that into the law now, that you have to give feedback, but no more than 2. So the document that I have here, let me go back, the Marzano's 9 high yield strategies, that's if your district is not using a walkthrough document. I don't know that anybody's district that's not using the walkthrough, but just in case, because I always get that one in case, just use that one to see if you see anything's happening. Now, understanding that Marzano, we have some documents in your shell that would show you what those things would look like in those classrooms when you went. So make sure you understand, it's not just that list of things. It's here's what it would look like. We have that in your shell. Now, the survey is to see if how much teacher leadership, or how much they're providing, or how many opportunities they're given. So I want to remind you again, I'm not going to require it, but if you want to use Qualtrics to send out the survey, and some of you have already sent it, let me go through that again. Somebody put me on a timer. I've got 4 minutes and I'm going to be through this. So sharing my screen. Here are the 5 things that Todd Whitaker says show leadership throughout the building. Teacher has input on professional development. That means they teach other teachers. They play a role in the development of the school improvement plan. That means they're on the school improvement team. Teacher plays a role in setting school-wide policy. That's the curriculum committee. Teacher has input on development and management of the school budget. That's the budget committee. Our teacher plays role in the hiring. The things that would show school-wide leadership. What we're trying to do is get you to understand that you want your best teachers filling these roles in your building. And this is the way you reward your best teachers. You don't want the teachers who just metaphorically roll out the ball every day to be in leadership positions in your school. If you are to create a culture of teaching and learning in your building, your best teachers have to be your teacher leaders. They have to be the people who are filling these roles. That is the notion. That's kind of one of the secrets of our business is to create a culture of teaching and learning, is that we reward our best teachers, our best classroom practitioners with leadership positions throughout the entire school. That's the whole notion of the AAPTEL. That's how you create a teaching and learning, and you develop a professional growth plan so that your not best teachers, you're trying to grow them into your best teachers. You know, you can't just say, well, this is what I got, you know, too bad, so sad. We can't do the old Collins good to great, we'll just move them to another seat on the bus. We can't do that. What if you don't have good ones? You know, get the best ones and get them on the bus, then get them in the right. What if there ain't no best ones? What if there isn't any? And we can't take, if the PE, you know, if the math teacher's not being successful, we can't move them over to PE. That doesn't work that way. We got to grow our own here. And that's what we're talking about, is creating a professional growth plan that grows through whole group, PLC, and one-on-one intensive, that grows them into the teachers that we need them to be. That's our role. That's our responsibility. So when we look at these 5, remember, if you want to use Qualtrics, we already have paid for you an account. So when you go to Web Connect over here to Launchpad, first time user, or if you've already done it, you simply sign in. You'll have this. I'm going to go through it quickly. Let me close that one. I'll make this one go faster. Up here, the 3 up here at the top left, this is your main menu. All right, and when you get here, top right, create a project. And this is what I'd like for you to name it. You do a survey. Do a survey. And then get started down here at the bottom right. Do AAPTEL, PTEL, AAPTEL teacher leadership survey, and put your last name. I had to do it too. All right. AAPTEL teacher leadership service and your last name. If you don't put your last name, it won't let you do it. It won't work. It'll think it's somebody else's. We'll create that project. And we're going to do 5 multiple choice questions. All right. And so multiple choice, and the number of choices is going to be 2. Choice 1 is yes. Choice 2 is no. Take the maybe out if it tries to make you do a maybe. Yes, no. All right. Once you've done one like that, simply over here to the far right, hit those 3 little dots and do a copy. And you won't have to do that. And then go to the next one you just made and copy it. And the next one you just made and you copy it. And the next one you made and just copy it. And you got 5. There you go. Pretty easy. Then click on the first question. Take that template we've given you with these five leadership positions on it. Make sure that you have them typed out that way, that you have edited them. No formatting or numbering or any of that. You simply copy them one at a time. Copy. Control V. And there it is. And if it tries to give you additional ones like that, just remove them. It shouldn't do that but one time. Quickly there. And it'll quit right quick. All right, there it is. Now, it won't let you publish it and distribute it. What you'll have to do, I'm gonna go ahead and publish this one. Publish. I'm gonna go ahead. All right, so what you will do once you get it built, you simply come back up here to the top and go back to projects. It'll be the only one you have. With the survey closed right here, with it closed, you got to close it. Come to the end, to the little dots out here again, your project options, and you simply do collaborate. And you just type my email address in. I'm just D-Lamb.
Dr. Lamb, the question was asked, are they only allowed to use yes or no options?
Yes. What else would you want to use? And you invite me and save, and it'll send me an invitation. I will copy it, publish it, and send it back. And at that point, then you can come here when you get it back with it closed, and you can distribute it. And it will, when you go to distribute it, it will give you the link to that survey. But again, you cannot distribute it until you collaborate it to me. Collaborate, that means share. I'll copy it, publish it, send it back. And when you get it back with it closed, you can distribute it. You hit distribute, and it will give you these options. Distribute survey, get a single reusable link. There it is. And there it is. Just copy the link, and then you can email it to whoever you want to and give them the survey. And then you will get the results right here where it says results. Pretty simple. Now, the question that came up, what other options would you give them other than you either do this or you don't? Maybe I'm not understanding the question.
We
I mean,
just,
this is-
on Tuesday night, we looked at some examples and it had 4 options. That's what I was asking.
No, we don't want, no. This is a yes, no.
Okay.
This is either yeah, you do, or no, you don't. Because we don't want to get into how often or any of those kinds of things. Either you do or you don't on each of those things. And that gives us a much better represent, because then we get into, then you start, well, how much is often and how much is seldomly? Then you start trying to do percentages, and you have people put their shoes off trying to do the math, taking a survey. That never goes well. They know whether they are, you don't have to coach them on whether they did or they didn't. If you do, you don't need them anyway. If they're not smart enough to figure yes or no, then you don't need them.
And Melissa, those were used when they allowed,
when you have me in the doctoral program.
and those other kinds of things, those were examples that were pulled. We're just now officially using Qualtrics, honestly, for the first time this semester.
Yeah, but when you have me for quantitative and for quantitative statistics later on in your doctoral program, when we talk about survey methodology, you will discover that the simpler you can make choices for people, the better your return rate and the cleaner your data is going to be. That's, I'm not trying to be facetious here, give anybody a hard time, but this is one of those where we just want a yes, no answer on this one. But that's a legitimate question. You see it fights you to try to get you to give more detail, but we just want yes, no. Click on them and remove those extra ones. That's all you're going to do. Again, build it quickly. You saw how long it takes me to build one. Collaborate it to me. I'll copy, publish it, send it back, and it'll say copy when it comes back. With it closed, click on projects. With it closed, go to distribute and get a single reusable link, and you can email that link to anybody to take it, and it'll come right back to the results if you want to use Qualtrics. Now, we exclusively use Qualtrics in the doctoral programs at Gardner Webb, and most doctoral programs around the country are now using it. It's a good way to get familiar with it and the different functions that it has. It will help you. Just like APA 7, you're going to have, and there's a level of that of professionalism that we're talking about here. You need skills. So that you can write a technical writing in APA 7 style, and you can use a data collection tool like Qualtrics. Will teach you, some other things later on as well. These are good skills to have, to survey your staff. I mean, I know Robin Hamilton, Dr. Hamilton surveys her staff regularly. I know that she does because she cares what they think and she wants their input. I mean, you saw how quick I did that survey. You can pop these out and they look really neat too, by the way. Let's see if I can do one right quick. Share. I gotta move some of this stuff out of the way. Look at there. That's what it looks like. Teacher isn't. Looks pretty neat, doesn't it? I mean, it's just that quick. It's got, it's move that out of the way. It's got the university logo. We could have put a title. We don't need to do all that, but that's what it looks like. If you want to, do some titles and some other work or things like that, that's up to you. But that's what it looks like. And it's got a professional look at it. And it's a quick and easy tool. And when we get it back, we just simply click on results, and it'll tell us what our results is right there. It'll tell us how many people answered and what they answered and what the average, the average score is, and it'll tell us all that stuff. As soon as, it does all the analytics for us. It's really easy, and we can run reports in Word documents or whatever. We can do Excel spreadsheets, or we can do PDFs. We can do whatever you want to do. So it's a really neat tool. Now, but one of the things that I kind of skipped over that is you can validate surveys using this as well. This one's already been validated. So, but let me go back to projects. When you the survey open and when you finish it, I hit publish up here. You see this expert review score right here. So that means I've already validated this survey. See here, everything passed on validity over here. See that? Now this one, it was pretty easy, but when we're building these things in your doctoral programs, and even later in this programs, when you're building things that aren't from recognized literature like this one from Todd Whitaker, sometimes it's hard to get them validated, but this one does all the functions and helps us do that. That's another reason why we like to use this tool as opposed to something like SurveyMonkey. We know that this is what we use in professional school and doctoral programs, dissertation work. This is what school districts use when they put out surveys, and people, they make sure that they validate the surveys through a piece of software like this, what we do. So there you go. That's task 1 and 2, collecting your data, representing your data. So what you do, back to this one, move that out of the way. When it says create a checklist, you don't just make your own up. Again, you use the district's walkthrough, or you use Marzano here if you don't have one. It'd be hard to believe you don't have one. And you use this one right here. When it says create, you've got to go, either in SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics or whatever, you got to create your survey. Is what it's telling you. That's that's part of your responsibility, is to use a software package to create your survey. And then in task 2, you'll collect your data, and then you will see right here, it shows we just want a yes or no right here. And then we want to, if you use this one, Marzano's is a walkthrough. Did you see these things? Yes or no? We're trying to simplify this. Now, you would do maybe gradients of this in real life, but for our purposes, we just want a yes, no. And then that would lead you to task 3. You just present your data from your walkthroughs. Not everybody. Do 2 or 3 to get a handle on how it's done, and then talk to your principal and kind of ask them, you know, do people do these or not from your experience? And they'll be able to tell you right away. That's what we're talking about. And then that takes you to task 3. You're gonna build an action plan. We call it a growth plan in this one, but it's going to use that same action plan format that we've been, and it's going to, again, have whole group, professional development. You know what PLC is, you know how to form one now. You know that that's the kind of things that you would do in a PLC, is work on what is the best practice to teach this particular thing, you know, sharing examples and learning and growing in your PLC, and then that one-on-one intensive that Dr. Crawford was talking about. And then you will reflect on I guess it'll be probably 9 competencies that you did not reflect on, in the AAPTEL. So you did 12 in the AAPTEL, that'd be 10 and 2. And you'll do the other 9 here. So that is a quick overview. I'm going to go to Dr. Hamilton now. Dr. Hamilton, can you share your screen with your PowerPoints? And she's going to talk to you about how to do these things.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Hi, so while you were sharing about walkthroughs, I had messaged one of my principals and just asked, hey, do we have a district tool? Do we have something that we use? Because I kind of gave her a heads up that that's kind of where I'm at and what I need to do. And she had said that they just got one. She said like within the month. And that none of them have used them yet. Is that something I should still use? Or
I think you ought to use it. Get ahead of the curve, and maybe you could teach your principal something.
Yeah, I was just asking her, and she was saying that it's hard to get in classrooms.
Yeah, it really is. But Victoria, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people who didn't have walkthroughs. Now that NISA's training has changed, and what Dr. Crawford was talking about, everybody's supposed to, as of this past fall, every district was supposed to have adopted a walkthrough instrument. Now, that's why I'm saying everybody's supposed to all be fully vested in MTSS, but we know that's not true either. But, you know, so that's why I always try to couch the things. In case you don't have one, you can use ours, but you ought to have one. And I think, Victoria, this would be a perfect opportunity for you to collaborate with your administrators on using this new one. I think that would be, that may be the best thing that could ever happen for you right there. That'd be great.
Thank you.
You'd be on the ground floor. Thank you.
And Dr. Land,
Victoria,
the fact that your school district has adopted that makes it a valid and reliable, makes it a valid instrument.
Yeah.
The reliability.
How you use it determines its reliability.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Victoria, I am competitive. And this is just going to be fully revealing. So this is my calendar.
We lost your audio. Dr. Hamilton, we lost your audio.
Can't hear you.
Oh boy.
Now we can hear you again now.
Oh, good.
Not very loud though.
I think she's too far away from the microphone.
So that what I just showed you is a calendar.
Yeah, there you are, back.
And if let's just say that I went in 31 out of 32 classrooms today, then I don't color a block in. You said it was hard to get in every classroom. It is. I have to get in every single classroom and I color in half the block. If I go to every single one twice, I color in both blocks. That's my own competitiveness against. It's 2 o'clock. I've been in everywhere once. I've been in 31 out of 32 classrooms, and it's 2 o'clock. For the second time, I've been out in 31 out of 32 for the second time today. I will run to that last classroom or those last classrooms just so I can color in that block. So this is like you have to like set that like measurement for yourself. You have to really watch yourself. And you just have to monitor yourself. It's like that self-monitoring, and to be able to get there and do that. And again, I will tell you that is the number one thing that I think creates high growth. So let's look at task 2 really quick. And Dr. Lamb's already sort of covered all this. So we're just going to go really, really quick. So in the task 1, you're going to create that survey and checklist, and that's it. You're going to create it. In task 2, you are going to send out that survey via Qualtrics, and you are going to use that checklist to go around and conduct those classroom walkthroughs. The more classroom walkthroughs you do, the more valid and reliable your results will be. So you're going to collect this data from your walkthroughs. And again, just like always, you're going to work with your PLC to analyze that. You're going to look at it's the very same 5 things that you researched in task 1. It's what you're going to reply to from the data that you collect in task 2. So you want to, there they are, those 5 things. So you're researching those in task 1. You're going to have at least 15 different pieces of research in task 1. And then what you're going to do is, first of all, in task 2, prompt 1, you're going to describe those data collection strategies. So what tools and instruments did you use? How many teachers did you observe? What research tool and instrument did you use? How many teachers did you survey? How many teachers did you send the survey to? How did you send that survey? Did you send that electronically? Did you send that through Qualtrics? How many did you send it to? How many responses did you get? So make sure that you are giving a thorough description of that. So then what's going to happen after that is you are going to describe the criteria in the process of identifying gaps. So you want to think about what the research said and what you saw in actual practices in your school. So I'm going to share this that I shared with my class on Tuesday night, and this has nothing to do with school education. So let's say that I researched good health practices. And good health practices, in my research, I found that you need to drink 64 ounces of water a day. You need to have consistent sleep and wake times, and you need to exercise at least 30 minutes a day. So then I did surveys. I sent out surveys to people like, how much water do you drink? Do you have consistent sleep and wake times? How much do you exercise? I let them self-report that, right? And then I also did some observations. Like I did observations of people drinking water, of them exercising, that kind of thing. So what I found from that was that 2 out of 20 staff members drink sodas and less than 20 ounces of water. 20 out of 20 go to bed whenever they want to and sleep late on the weekend, so they don't have consistent sleep times. And 20 out of 20 exercise 5 days out of 7. So what I could say then, based on this research versus data collection through my surveys and observations, what I could say is that my staff is consistent with research on good health practices for exercise, but my staff has a gap between water consumption and consistent sleep and wake times. So I just sort of give that as an outside analogy, just to sort of help you get out of the thought and being mired down in school, to maybe like a little easier analogy for you. So you're going to describe that criteria of identifying the gaps, and that's there for you. And then those 5 areas that you researched in task 1, you're going to take the data that you collect from your checklist and from your survey, and you're going to triangulate that research with your survey results and your observation checklist to make a response. So under heading 1, building efficacy and empowering staff, you're going to talk about first, and this is important to be explicit and just delineate it like this. So you're going to talk just a little about the research, then the survey. What did the teachers report? Let's say basically budget input, helping with hiring, input into the curriculum, or how many people? And then your observation checklist. What were the overwhelming majority of items on that checklist that were observed at high rates? This could be an indicator that the teachers work with efficacy and they do feel empowered. And then working with your PLC, you're going to identify gaps and strengths in that area. And then you're going to go through each one in the very same delineated process. So results-oriented PD. What does the research say? What did the survey show about that? Did teachers say that they felt overwhelmingly they had an input into staff development, or did they not? Do they feel their staff development is meaningful and effective, or did they not? When you do your observations, do you see evidence of implementation of staff development in those observations? I am a thinking map school. We have thinking maps PD all the time. Am I seeing those thinking maps in the classroom when I'm doing my walkthroughs or other observations? Yes or no? And so then again, you're going to look at that research, you're going to look at what you saw, and you're going to identify the strengths, and you're going to identify the gaps. Recruitment, placing, and mentoring a staff. You're going to do the research. Then what do the teachers say about being a part of that recruitment and hiring process? Do they have the opportunities to mentor new staff? Do they feel like they were effectively mentored? And then through your observations, do you see the influence of mentors in those proteges' classrooms? Did you observe effective teaching practices in those classrooms? These are all the kinds of things that you're going to be doing. And then you're also going to do the same thing for approaches to evaluation for school staff and teacher leadership and decision making. I'll share, your instructor will share this under 8 for you, that you can go in and just look at those like little nuances of things that you can add to build to task 2. So then in task 2, prompt 1, we're still in prompt 1. You're going to do a summary at the end. You're going to synthesize what you and your PLC discovered, like is the overall strengths. And when I say strengths, I mean what you surveyed, the perceptions, and what you observed and how that aligned with the research, and then those overall gaps. So you make sure that you look at the helpful hints document. That is another great place for you to look. And so then what you're going to do next in task 2, prompt 2, is you are going to again graphically show that in your figures and things. So you want to make sure that's an APA 7. So for example, here is an example of a student who did a 5th grade whole group reading observation checklist. And she had it that way. And this particular student had every observation she had done highlighted in this manner with the notes over on the side. I think this was Google survey or Survey Monkey or something. And this is for the survey, and she presented that in the pie chart format, which is very easy to see. And then another thing that she did right here for her summation, she said like on comparing and contrasting. 7 out of 11. 7 out of 11 teachers received a yes on summarizing and note taking. So that gave you a very clear indication of 100% got a yes on homework and practice. So she sort of set her bar right there. So that gave her a quick overview for that gap analysis of which of these best teaching practices of Marzano's are seen in her school overall and are not seen in her school overall. So that's a strong thing for you to look at when you're summarizing those things together. And then in task 3, you are going to have an analytical narrative in task 3 on these 10 areas. You will address those areas. You can again look in your helpful hints document for that. And these are the 10 areas that you will address in task 3. And just like you did in task 4 of the AAPTEL, you are going to do a teacher empowerment leadership growth plan based on that gap in task 4, so that your staff and your teachers can have more empowerment. So you're going to put that there, and this is all about the teachers at this point. Remember, those indicators of success do need to be measurable. You do need to make sure that you have explicitly stated how you have shared this with your school administrative team. You want to make sure that what I've learned from the most recent scores, share those emails and documentation of those emails when you're inviting people to these meetings, and also share and upload those PowerPoint presentations that you are making. And then you need to make sure that you are in this presentation to administration, reporting best practices, giving them the results of that checklist of the survey, and then explicitly stating the strengths, I would say, that you find that are aligned with research in your school, and also highlighting those gaps to create this leadership growth plan for your school. So those are the things that you're going to do in task 3.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, and Dr. Crawford, if you would move forward with task 4.
Hold up. Thought I did or not. Come on.
While Dr. Crawford is bringing up task 4, just a reminder that you need to understand and you need to know what you're doing, but we're not going to hold you back with with evidence 2 like we did with evidence 1. Those of you that are comfortable, you know what direction you're going in, you can move on. You don't have to wait from week to week if you know what you're doing and you're ready to move on. That is part of the independence that we give you as we're moving forward with the evidences now. So you know, if you get task 1 done and you want to move on with task 2, and remember, you've got a couple of weeks, use this time wisely. You can get a lot done in the next 2 weeks and get ahead of the game. So we're not going to hold you back if you're ready to move on.
I am sorry, it's not where I put it.
Okay, well, and
While
Dr.
we're waiting
Crawford,
on that, can I
ahead.
share the APA checklist, please?
yes, just go ahead while Dr. Crawford, and Dr. Crawford, when she gets through, if you can't, just talk about it. It's okay.
So Dr. Revis and I created this last weekend, and it is, and I've shared it out, so everybody will put it up in week 8. But this is an APA edition editing checklist. Just to remind you, so I would advise you to just print this, and then before you submit anything, just literally check. Your in-text citations have a corresponding reference. The reference section has the corresponding in-text citations. Check all your paragraphs. Make sure your margin is on 0. Make sure everything that didn't have headings are left justified in bold. All words and headings are capitalized. Look at those blue and squiggly lines, red and squiggly lines. Use your spell check. It is there for you. Use that. Only 1 space after a punctuation is first person active. We should never see the candidate, blah, blah, blah. Times New Roman 12-point font. Numbers 0 through 9 are in form. No sentences begin or end with numerals. All the descriptions and everything, keep that template just like it is. The descriptions and instructions and everything are single space. Acronyms, there are the rules for that. There are the rules for figures. When you say C appendix, whatever the letter is, the C is lowercase. Quotes have that in-text citation page number. If you're not using a direct quote, you do not have that page number. Keep your authors, names, years, and page number if required together. Don't say Stedman said blah, 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 and then at the end of a 2-sentence whatever of the year. All that needs to stay together. In-text citations are separated if you have more than like 2 different in-text citations, that's separated by a colon. Please minimize the use of direct quote. That really does not make for good reading. But if you do have a direct quote of 40 or more words, which should be a rare occurrence, please understand that there's a different rule for that. Remember the rule for 3 or more authors. In-text citations with 2 authors. Medical citation is an ampersand. Insert that page break at the beginning of your reference section so that it always starts at the top of the page. Insert that page break at the beginning of each appendix so that each appendix starts at the top of the page. Your hanging indent has to be in the reference section, and your reference section is double spaced within and between. Print that off, check it off before you make any submission to double check yourself.
Okay, thank you. And that's a great document. Thank you, and Dr. Thank you and Dr. Rempis for taking the time to do this, Dr. Hamilton. It's really going to be, this is an asset even after you get out of this program. Use it, for the rest of the program.
I think I
Carl?
saved over. I think I saved over it. I did. Oh, my PowerPoint.
Well, pretty much Dr. Lamb has, it's the 9 competencies and that you do the same thing that you've done
That you
with.
did for the app cell. So for those of you who might you'll submit them the exact same way. Remember to A, request comments, but B, remember to have that artifact attached to that particular competency. So it's much the same. It's much the same thing as you just did for the AAPTEL. You're just doing it for the other 9 with the AAPTEL. But again, remember the big thing is to remember to have that artifact, that thing. And you don't have to write a big novel when you're writing up what it is. You just want to write what it is, and moreover, how you specifically relate that to the work that you did throughout the course of your internship. That's what they're looking for when they look at that you can relate the artifact to the work that you were doing in your internship.
And just remember, the 9 that you're doing should reflect the work that you're doing with the AAPTEL and with your clinical internship. Pretty much the AAPTEL is history now, so your focus is going to be on evidence too, and new opportunities. Okay, Dr. Lamb, would you like to bring the benediction?
I will. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to show you this. All right, so you collect your survey data. And you say, all right, now I'm going to do my gap analysis. I'm going to, what does this data tell me on my gap analysis? So I'm going to share my screen, and I will share this document with your instructors. So here's when you start writing up and doing your gap analysis, and you start writing up. All right, so here are the things that you've got to write. Results-oriented professional development, what you found and what the gap is between what ought to be and what is. Recruitment, placement, what ought to be, what the best practices in those things are, and mentoring of staff, and what is. You say, well, where am I going to find that data? Well, that survey that you did, the question that you ask on teacher has input on professional development, that refers to that one goes back to mentoring of staff, goes back to evaluation of staff, goes back to results-oriented professional development. So these are the things you're going to write about, and this is where you're going to get your data from these questions right here. I've got it kind of printed out for you here. Teacher plays a role in the hiring process. That's recruitment. Yes or no? Well, then they're not involved in recruiting staff if they're not involved in the hiring process. are, you know, if they're not involved in the development of the school budget, then they're not involved in decision making. And if they're not involved in the placement of teachers, then they're not involved in setting school-wide policy. That's where you get that gap analysis from, is look at your data. And I've got them matched up here for you. So you can go right down the line when you do your gap analysis. I'll share this document, and this is going to be your gap analysis. I'll save it right. Save as, this is going to be your gap analysis document. And I'll send that to your instructors. All right, so I'll stop my share now. Again, this is how you build a culture of teaching and learning in your building, where that's the important thing. What do they do at Jones Sausage? They make sausage. What do we do in public school or schools in general? We teach kids. And the way that we do that is by creating a culture of teaching and learning in our building. We won't always get the best teachers. It's our job to make them the best teachers. And that's what we're doing by creating a culture of teaching and learning, where our best teachers in the classroom that are most empowered in their classroom using best practices are the people that are in the leadership positions in our building. That's what we're looking to do here. That's the notion of building a culture of teaching and learning in our building, is that our best teachers, our best practitioners are the leaders in our building. That's it.
And remember, again, you're not looking this, if you're in the classroom still, you're not looking this from a teacher's, remember you're a teacher, and remember, you know, what it is to be a teacher. You're not looking at this from a teacher's lens. You're thinking as an administrator when you're doing all of this. Okay?
All right.
Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Crawford, anything else before we close? Thank y'all so much. We will see you on Tuesday evening. Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Am I able to just stay for 1 second to ask questions?
Sure.
Sorry, I have 2 questions.
Okay, go ahead, Victoria.
So my first one is, there is somebody at my school who is a semester ahead of me at Gardner Webb. And so I know she sent out this, this form, the survey, I'm sorry. And I am anticipating, I love my teachers at my school, but I am anticipating a lot of people will not answer it twice. And I'm still gonna send mine out, but is it okay if I kind of look at mine and hers? Because I know it was the same questions. I know I did it. I just am kind of thinking that there's not going to be many people who do it twice for us.
The difference is, though, that was another semester. Is it the same people? Is it the very same people? Is it the same? Is it the same administration?
Yes, she sent it like just 2 months ago.
Okay, then I would say, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Crawford, I would say yes.
Okay. And my second question, from speaking with my assistant principal, and it kind of seems as if she said she hasn't done any walkthroughs in months. And I know some of
You shouldn't say that out loud either.
yeah, my other AP and my principal, I know like we have some really huge behaviors going on right now. And so is it okay if I kind of just get her? I know you kind of wanted us to go through with them, maybe once, and I do feel comfortable enough with the people at my school that I know I can, there's teachers who would be very receptive to just me coming in. Can I kind of just have them come for one, like really just try and get them to come for one and then just kind of
Sure.
go off for,
Go by yourself if you need to, but if they can go with you, I think that will maximize your experience.
And Victoria, as you're putting your growth plan together, the fact that walkthroughs have, with an instrument, has not been a best practice at your school, that can actually become a part of your growth plan.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as you guys were talking.
You know, you can recognize that. I mean, you've already that is a weakness, and that is an important. Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Crawford have both said that is a major best practice to know what's going on in your school. Plus, how do you know? How do you empower teachers? And if you're not in those classrooms, look at how do you know what's going on, Dr. Hamilton? I mean, you could write a book on this. You've already said so much about it. So wouldn't you think that that Victoria could use the
Maybe too much, but I'll tell you this, 20 some years ago, I had a teacher that she never, you could barely hear her. I'm doing that on purpose. You could barely hear her.
Oh.
And now she might get in a child's ear and talk very sternly, but nobody ever heard it. So one time a parent came in and they said, Miss such and such had yelled and screamed at her child. I said, oh, no. I'm in her room 2 or 3 times a day, and you can rest assured she has not yelled and screamed at your child. Now she might have talked sternly to your child in their ear. She hadn't yelled and screamed. That's, that's just another good part about being in there, because that empowers them, and it empowers you to be able to support them in the work.
right. Right. But anyway, yes, you've got to figure it out, Victoria. You're on target.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anybody else before we close up shop? Okay, Kisa. Okay,
Glitch muted.
can't hear you. There you go.
I did. Thank you. I did the turn it in, and I know Dr. Hamilton told me that it went through, but on my report, it does not show me. It's like a little bell with the thing slashed through it. Went up under the similarity. So am I supposed to be able to see like a percentage or something there?
You just turned that in. I'm sorry, I'm looking right now.
Well, I redid it because I didn't have a percentage there.
You're not
I
going
was supposed to be seeing something.
you're
So
not
I
going to get a
redid.
Kisa, you're not going to get a report back. That's only for Dr. Hamilton.
Right.
Oh,
And then
And-
I told you to go ahead and put it into task stream.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what you did was you turned it into the AAPTEL. You can only turn it in once to AAPTEL. So when you resubmitted it this afternoon, you put it in the AAPTEL. Can I clear that out, Dr.?
No,
You can. You could go in and
I'm going to clear that attempt.
click
I
clear
see
that attempt. Yeah.
clear attempt. Yeah.
thank you. I
yeah,
had somebody
so-
helping me, so they must.
So yeah, so you are ready to go ahead and put it into task stream AAPTEL DRF. And then remember to do your screenshot, okay? When you get your score.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Somebody else.
Have a good night.
You
Anybody else?
too.
Okay, Michelle.
So I had done my AAPTEL with the first grade PLC. And so I'm wondering how best to do this AAPTEL with, you said to present it and work with my PLC to kind of come up with my action plan.
If
But I
you're
don't
com-
really know
you're-
if my first grade team is going to be the best
Well,
to
well,
help with.
you can form a new team. For
Okay.
the AAPTEL. You can form a new, and what I would do, Michelle, I would make it cross-categorical. I would have lots of different kinds of representation from this point on. But you can form a new PLC.
To just have that permission.
Mhm.
And then do I have to write about that PLC anywhere in the AAPTEL, or just know that it's a group of people at my school?
No, when you say you can put a disclaimer in there that, that with the AAPTEL you formed a new PLC, it's going to come to me anyway. So just put a
Okay.
disclaimer in there and let me know that you formed a new PLC and why. That's all
Okay.
you can do.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Good questions. Anybody else? Okay, guys, we will see you on Tuesday evening. Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Crawford, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.